Sri Yuta Padakamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sacha Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Pariyana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitam Sacha Om Ajnanatirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Guru Abhishta Sapurakam Guru Ganera Shisha Sambhushitam Chinta Chinta Samastvedanipunam Shri Rupa Panthanugam Govindabhidam Ujjalam Bhartanam Bhaktyanavitam Sundaram Mande Vishwa Guruncha Divya Bhagavat Premdo Hibij Pradam Devam Divyatanam Suchandravadanam Balarka Chelanchitam Sandrananda Puram Sadeka Varnam Vairaki Vidyam Buddhim Shri Siddhantanidhim Subhakti Lasitam Sarasatanam Varam Vandetam Shubhadam Madeka Sharanam Nyasisaram Śrīdharam Shri Siddhanta Saraswati Iti Vidito Gauriya Gurvanvaye Bhato Bhanuriva Prabhata Gagane Gaura Sankirtane Mayavadati Mingilo Daragatan Udhritya Jivani Man Krishna Prema Sudabdi Gahan Sukam Pradata Prabhum Tam Bhaje Namo Gaura Kishoraya Bhaktavadhuta Murtaye Gaurangha Padma Bhrangaya Radha Bhava Nishevine Bande Bhakti Vinodam Shri Gaura Shakti Sarupakam Bhakti Shastragya Samrajam Radha Rasa Sudhanadim Gaura Vrajashita Sheshaira Vaishnaveira Vanda Vigraham Jagannatha Pramam Vande Premabdham Riddha Vaishnavam Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Bhaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah Panchatattvatmakam Krishnam Bhaktarupa Sarupakam Bhaktavtaram Bhaktakyam Namami Bhakta Shaktikam Namo Mahavadanaye Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaura Tashe Namah Sashtang Dandat Pranam to all the exalted Vaishnavas, devotees, servitors at the lotus feet of Srila Gurudev, Om Vishnupad, Srila Bhakti Sundar Govind Dev-Goswamī Maharāj, and Param Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Dev-Goswamī Maharaj, serving worldwide. Welcome to our Friday evening Sangha at the request and orders of our Divine Guardian here in Sokalpuri, Srila Bhakti Pavan Janardhan Maharaj. Together we're reading and discussing various publications and the divine literature that we have of Param Guru Maharaj and Srila Gurudev, trying to be of some service to the servitors. So I have our divine panelists. Let me bring them on. Dandavat Pranam and welcome Shripat Arun Krishna Prabhu.
Dandavat Prabhu.
And Dandavat Pranam, welcome Shripat Chinmadev Prabhu.
Dandavat.
So as we've discussed today, we'll be starting the Golden Staircase, and this is our first session, and we shall begin. I don't have a paperback or a physical publication, but I do have the PDF that I'm following, and in the invites I included an online version that if anyone wants to follow along. So Chinmay Prabhu, in the email that you got, if you care to look, it'll have a link to the publication, so you could follow that if you don't have the paperback. So should I start reading? All right. Okay, this is Param Guru Maharaj. Chapter 1 says the conscious sky. The original substance is spirit, is soul, is consciousness. And matter forms a part of that conscious portion, that conscious substance. It is not that matter has produced consciousness, but it is one part of consciousness. Consciousness is infinite, and everything is in that ocean. Somewhere there is ice, somewhere moss, somewhere iron. They are all in that ocean. These different conceptions. But consciousness is all in all. And everything has its shelter there. Just as you find patches of clouds in the sky or so many specks of dust in the air, so the material conception is there in the sky of consciousness. It is a sky, the conscious sky. And somewhere there are patches of clouds or dust. You can't see the air, but the dust is in the air. You can't see the sky, the actual ether, but the clouds are in the sky. So the background is consciousness, and therein we find somewhere is dust, somewhere is a cloud. Just a quick reflection here, if you permit, a little pause. So if you notice, Param Guru Maharaj he points out in this first opening paragraph that very important for us to understand that ultimately everything is resting on consciousness. So everything is of that nature. Everything is conscious. But matter is different from consciousness, as in matter forms a part of that conscious portion, that conscious substance. It is not that matter has produced consciousness, but it is one part of consciousness. So important to again understand that when we commonly speak Shakti and consciousness, for Purush Prakriti, let's take that, Purush and Prakriti. So Purush is first, is prime. That gives rise to Prakriti. So Prakriti is portion thereof. So the materialists or the fossilists, in the finer sense, they believe, or they're of the belief that consciousness is a product of Prakriti. So Prakriti is prime, and that has produced Purush or consciousness. So there's a verse in Śrīmad Bhagavatam, 12th canto, which goes, Vikara khyayamanopi pratyagatmanamantara na nirupyasti syad chet sama atmavat. So vikar means transformation. So vikara khyayamanopi pratyagatmanamantara na nirupyasti syat chet chitsama atmavat. So it is not possible to consider anything to exist without it being conscious or there being consciousness in it, in the background. It has to be, because it has transformed from that original substance. That original substance, it has transformed. So in the background, you will find, if you look deep enough, that there is consciousness. And na-nirupyasti, which means to be accepted as factually existing, it must possess that same quality as pure spirit. So chitsama also means conscious. And atmavat means like the original spirit. So this is an important verse, given our line of discussion and what Param Guru Maharaj is explaining to us. This is 12th Canto, Chapter 4, verse number 29, for reference, if someone wants to discuss this further. So it's important where the Vedantic conclusion is being echoed here. Sarva khalva idam brahma. Everything is conscious. All existence is based on consciousness. But then because of that transformatory process, then there are various manifestations and various relative levels within the absolute. So I thought it was important to highlight this for our discussion here. Okay. Back to Param Guru Maharaj. Darwin and others have proposed.
Chinmay Prabhu wants to say something.
Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
No, it's all right. I was just, because this idea that everything is coming from consciousness, it can be easily seen, even in a mundane example, like my phone. Where did it come from? Well, it came from the store. Before that, where did it come from? Well, a warehouse somewhere. Before that, factory. Its original source, someone thought it up. Consciousness is behind it. Every man-made object in the world, the original source is consciousness. So the idea that matter could create consciousness is just completely illogical.
Correct.
And also the recent, all the research that is going on in particle physics and quantum mechanics related to how does one perceive, how means either a machine or actually a person who is peering down the microscope trying to see something, and the deduction is that what the act of observation requires consciousness to entangle with it. So even the science is gravitating to the same conclusion as what you just said.
That's good on the examples level and gross level. Now, if you take it to the subtle level, just to make the go around a little livelier, is I would say that Prakriti is giving rise to this. The Shakti Tattva is giving rise to consciousness. She is also conscious. So then, at that point, then how would one go like, well, which one is first?
Yes.
That is the point. So that materialist, the subtle materialist, will go well. Yes, all that Shripad Chinmay Prabhu said, perfect. All that Arun Krishna Prabhu said, perfect. But that original consciousness is coming from Ma Prakriti. that argument. So that has to be clarified. That is not so. The original, that's why in Bhagavad Gita it's very, very important to understand in the Chatushloki what he says, where he says, Aham sarvasya prabhava. Matta sarvam pravartate. Very important. From me comes everything. All waves start from me. Doesn't say from Prakriti. So that is the most important. Like, what is the original substance? So that's why I said transformation and then another conscious substance. Transformation, some other conscious substance. Transformation, so many truths exist. On the conscious plane, so many truths exist. Shiva Tattva, Shakti Tattva. But then what is the original is how we trace it out. We would say Ishvara Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadiradir Govinda. Sarva Karana Karana. Nothing has caused him. He's the original, so that's the most important. You can't say Prakriti caused Bhagavan. No. That's, so one has to be careful because the Mayavadi will come and then explain to you it's all within the purview of Durga. Although we know she's divine energy, she's the Lord's energy, but they have understood it just backwards. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Back to Param Guru Maharaj. Darwin and others have proposed that consciousness was originally generated from material elements, but my response to that is fossil fatherism, crush it and establish a spiritual infinite. It is all spiritual. The fossil conception is a part of so many conceptions in the spiritual plane. Consciousness is in the background and there are developed positions, gradations within consciousness. Bhur, Bhuva, Sa, Maha, Jana, Tapa, Satta, Brahma, Brahmalok. And when service is added, it is enhanced. A sweet structure begins from the point when service is added to consciousness. Service can construct a beautiful capital, a beautiful country. It is there, and you only have to feel it. Enter and take up your appointed service. I want to pause here because this is really excellent. Namaskar, welcome Anil ji. Dandat Pranam Nandarani ji. So here Param Guru Maharaj is adding dynamism to consciousness. Dynamism means movement, vilas, at the highest plane. And then he is saying there are so many different planes reflective of that original plane. Now if we look at our gross plane, society, he's saying country. Remember we studied about Varnashram? That entire structure is based on the fact that at the highest and the central point, the origin is all consciousness. It's nothing but pure consciousness. So the various permutations of filtered consciousness at this gross level, added with the added tinge of service, what does that become? That becomes our prescribed duties, reflective of varnashram system. Do you see the science in it? Then our actions, what we perform, how we interact, everything is based off of that central conception. And service driven. That is the perfection of life. Even on the gross level, on the plane of action reaction. Back to yes, please go ahead, Chinmay.
So another way I see this too is because the living beings comprised of Satchidananda. So eternity, consciousness, and Ananda, the search for joy. And I think kind of what also Guru Maharaj is suggesting is that what is going to give us the greatest amount of joy? That's devotion, that's service. That will give us the greatest amount of joy. So consciousness alone is not enough. The search for Anandam is also what the Jiva soul is looking for. And where's the greatest fulfillment? In devotion, in service.
Haritoshanam. That action or that activity which satisfies Hari, Sri Hari, that is devotional service. And to arrange it for the masses, so that is fair, equitable, according to the abilities and propensities of the various people, but all in harmony as an organic whole, offering everything toward the center.
I got it.
Thank you, Prabhu. That is the beauty of Varnashram as reflective of the topmost service. You can't have that topmost service simply for the masses at the gross level. So at this level, to start the process going for that highest level, and then you have Varnashram. And without service consciousness, really, like Chinmay Prabhu said, it's incomplete. It's only Sat, maybe some part of Chit, but no Anand.
And Prabhuji, as I read this, I have to constantly remind me that when I read the word service, in parenthesis, a reminder for me is service to Bhagwan. So just a reminder, otherwise it is inadequate to understand.
Yes. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam Bhakti Uttama. Anukulyena Krishnanushilanam. Not to trouble him. Anukul. Anukul. That which is Anukul, not Pratikul. Not Pratikulyena. Anukulyena. So that which is devoid of karma, jnana, anavratam. Beyond the clutches of false ego, sarvopadhi vinirmuktam. So all upadhis, all designations have to come from false ego. So, sarvopadi vinirmuktam. And then, like that. Tatparatvena nirmalam. So, that is bhakti, but that subtlemost level cannot be achieved by the masses, so that's why for the benefit, so it's fair and equitable to everyone, it's accessible to everyone. That's why chatur varnayam maya srishtam karma vibhagasa. I was just bringing that in to again completely tie it up with like the sweet supreme central conception of why I have that, and so much of misinformation and nonsense exists, and caste system and all the wrong things are understood in the wrong context. Here, this is the central conception, and that is why we have in the periphery of how to get to this in a realistic way. That's why you have that. Otherwise, there was no need. There's no real need for having. Anyway, back to Param Guru Maharaj. It is there, and you have only to feel it, enter, and take up your appointed service. You will think, this is my home. This appointment feels very friendly to me. Now I have come home. This is the innate capacity of or substance, innate nature, swarup, which is presently covered by ignorance, by misconception. Madness and malengagement is the next section. A madman, leaving his own sweet home, wanders in the street and thinks it is imperative for him to collect pieces of paper or cloth, as if that were his business. It is absurd. His brain is focused in such a direction that he thinks it is my duty to collect these pieces of paper and pebbles. In this way, he is going on. But what is the real innate wealth of his heart? If you could only remember his home, his father, mother, other family members, his sweet, sweet home. But due to his madness, his consciousness is forcibly focused on some malengagement. Similarly, the position of so many persons, including philosophers, scientists, political leaders, and many more, is that their consciousness is focused towards the external direction. And there, they are all busy collecting. Some are collecting more pebbles, some more pieces of cloth or pieces of paper, but in this way they are going on. Swami Maharaj, Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, said that the United Nations, UNESCO, all such world committees, and barking dogs are both equal. Actually, they are more dangerous because they are capturing the more intellectually minded people. But they are of the same value. They are casting their own attention toward the material substance based on illusion and misconception, and posing in a very grand way. They are giving so much importance to that thing just as many dogs also bark to have possession of a particular thing. It is not more than that. With great courage, Swami Maharaj boldly refuted them, and this sort of conception is leading us to our highest prospect. Seeing beyond the perception of the senses. Devotee, now the weather is starting to become hot. Śrīdhar Maharaj, we should not pay much attention to that. It will come and go, come and go. Matra sparshāstu kaunteya shītoshna sukha dukkada agama paino nityastam satitikshassa bharata. O son of Kunti, only the engagement of the senses with their objects gives rise to the sensations of cold, heat, pleasure and pain. But these effects are temporary. They come and go. Therefore, O Bharat, you are to endure them. Regarding this verse of the Bhagavad Gita, one scholar, a Mr. Chatterjee, has explained this Sanskrit word matra to mean what is measured by our senses, the result of our senses measurement. It comes to mean matter or the world of material comfort. So just a quick pause here. Matra sparsha. Matra means also simply or just touch, sparsh. But here, Param Guru Maharaj is trying to explain another dimension. So, matra means measurement, matra sparsha. In this way, the word matra comes near to the word matter. It comes to mean matter or the world of material comfort. There are so many different views of the world. An ordinary man's estimation of the world and a scientist's estimation are different. An astronomer's estimation of the world is of another type. The politician's view is something else. The socialists, the humanists, the humanitarians' views, they are all different. But if we can come to the plane of the soul, even the lowest conception of what is the real inner self, that will help us. And there will be a revolutionary change in our lives. All the things of this world will then seem to be trash, of no value, empty. Presently, the soul is captivated by a great many things which produce mean consciousness. But the solution is given in the Bhagavad Gita. How we can achieve control of our senses and gain control over the impulses of our mind. It is recommended there that step by step we try to rise up to the soul's plane, eliminating the lower planes. First the field of experience of the senses, then the mental field, the impulse which works through the senses, then the intellect, that which drives the mental tendency, and crossing those, that we try to find that point of light which is the soul. If in any way, by the soul's introspection, you can perceive the soul, then whatever value you had assigned to this whole material manifestation will turn into ashes. Dhanyavad Abaji. Thank you. You will see my real identification is here within. It is so wonderful and valuable and independent of all the hallucinations I was suffering from by coming in contact with the external world. The inner domain is so high and my consciousness was focused so low on such nasty things. That is the highest way to control one's senses, one's charm for the world, for wealth, women, and popularity. Pause here. We seek Ananda. Innate nature, innermost nature, no matter how you try to control it, you cannot control it. No one can do it. That endeavor is also temporary and artificial. The real advice that Bhagavad Gita gives is to be able to see not just the soul plane, but engagement in that plane, which is service. Once we get to that point, there is no looking back. Because that Ananda, there is no comparison to. That is the only way, real way, the most tangible way to be able to conquer the whimsical nature of our senses and mind. Rasavarjam rasaopyasya param drishtava nivartate, which means lower taste can easily be given up when you acquire higher taste. That is the way. So, in our practice, in our sadhana, day-to-day Krishna consciousness, we never try to withhold senses from the objects. Rather, we try to engage our senses in the service. Very different from that meditative process of sitting on a kusha grass, facing a certain direction, closing your eyes. Yes, Anilji, please.
Correct, Swami. So what we are saying is that instead of just direct them towards the Haritosham and Bhakti, right? Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct.
Okay.
So that level of meditation is unlimited times higher than any other lower kind of meditation or different meditation. This meditative process is of the highest kind. And if under proper direction, if one can find any task, maybe menial to our gross consideration, but if we can find that, and if we can do it, that meditative process results in the highest benefit. So it's technical. Is it Does it make sense, Anilji?
Yes, sir, perfectly.
This meditative process, which is engaging one's service rather than trying to dissociate for no higher purpose. You dissociate senses from the objects of the senses, knowing that this cannot last forever, that they will ultimately seek out the objects, because that's what they're made to do. You cannot check it by artificial means forever. So then what is that engagement that they will seek? So in our process, all of those different objects of the senses are replaced by transcendental substance. We may not be able to appreciate that initially, but that process begins from that point. And it's a highly subtle meditative process.
Yat karoshi, yat juhoshi.
Dadasiyat yat tapasyasi kaunte tat kurushva mad arpanam to Krishna. So whatever you give away in charity, whatever you do, whatever endeavors, whatever sacrifice, always have the purpose and focus. What is that purpose? Do it for Krishna, Krishnanushīlanam. And who knows how to please him, because you and I don't know. Gurudev knows. So we seek his blessing, we serve him. Because surely by serving him, we know Krishna is happy. Not very complicated to understand. But is scientific and results in the highest benefit. Satchit Anand. No other process can take you to that complete Satchidananda Vigraha. This does. Should we continue? All right. So the next section reads, the astonishing soul. Kanak Kamini and Pratishtha, collection of energy for sense pleasure and popularity seeking. In what I'm reading, sense pleasure is repeated twice, is repeated, so I don't know if there's two words or one word. Energy for sense pleasure, and popularity seeking. Okay, so Kanak and Kamini are both for sense pleasure.
My version says collection of energy.
Collection of energy. Okay, hold on. No, collection of energy for sense pleasure?
Yes.
And then what does it say?
Then sense pleasure.
Huh?
Then sense pleasure.
Yeah, so sense pleasure twice.
Right.
That's what I was saying. So energy for sense pleasure of the wealth, and then sense pleasure for women, and then popularity seeking, which is pratishtha. Okay. These three things try to keep us down from consciousness of the self. To rise up step by step from the world of the senses to the mind, receiver of the sense experience, to the guide of the sense experience, and finally to the light which makes all these possible. Okay, so mind is the receiver of the sense experience. And what is the guide of sense experience?
Pravritti, that is higher.
Intelligence?
Intelligence. Buddhi. Indriyan pananahurindriye bhaya param mana manasastu para buddher yo buddher paratastu sa. Always. Senses over dull matter. All senses then giving input into the CPU, which is the mind, that is experiencing, and then but it's not the guiding element. It's only acceptance and rejection at this point. Acceptance and rejection. I like this, I don't like it. I like this, I don't like it. I want to go in that direction. I don't want to go here. I like this person, I don't like that person. That is the level of the mind. The guidance principle, or that principle that makes us aware, like, if you go in that direction, these are the consequences. That is intelligence. So, guiding, the guide of the experience. That is the intelligence. Consequences. And above that is the real light. So that is the soul plane. That point of light is near and dear, and the others are like foreign agents who have come to capture me and focus me. That light towards the rubbish and dung-like things of this world. So essentially what we have done, just a quick pause, is we have turned our consciousness outward, focusing on the external things, the objects, and left the inner world, the subjective world. Not knowing what is our own highest self-interest. Our own highest self-interest lies in the inner world. But we are focused in the outer world. And the genesis of why this is so, why are we not focused inward and naturally we are focused outward, is because fundamentally our entire propensity has been turned upside down. Our whole conception has been turned into misconception. Dvitiya vinibheshata syad, from that second interest we have developed. Ishadapetasya, and then viparrayo, viprit. It was right side up, and now it has been turned upside down. We are to look inward for the innermost satisfaction, for the highest satisfaction. We are looking outward. By nature. That's why we are told again and again that this is a diseased state. It is not a healthy state. That is the reason. Not because we are seeking pleasure. We will seek pleasure. We were made to do that. But our conception of where to seek it has been turned upside down. So we are seeking in the wrong direction. We're seeking in the outer world. We're looking for pleasure in objects. Whereas the real pleasure, Ananda, lies in subjectivity, in the soul plane, and deeper. But that's where it really substantially begins from. Hare Krishna. Now, our consciousness, like we are conscious, we can tell even in this state. But this consciousness is being filtered through the three modes and false ego. So this is not pure consciousness. This is filtered and marginal. So filtered and marginal consciousness is what we are experiencing in this world of experience at this point in time. Pure consciousness is different. That plane is unfiltered, not through false ego. And nirguna. No modes are active. That is the real soul plane. Let me read just one more paragraph here. If it's okay with you, then we'll stop. We'll pause. All right. Param Guru Maharaj. This is Param Guru Maharaj. If after having been focused there through our senses, we become more attentive and see some nasty things, then some realization will come into our mind, causing us to feel that such things are actually foreign to our real self. And only by connecting with them through our senses do we feel disturbed. On the whole, it is like that. Then upon rising up from the sense plane, you will find that there is another wonderful land of experience. The Atma is such a wonderful thing. Ascharyavat paschati kaschidenam ascharyavat vadadi tathaiva chanya ascharyavat chainamanna shrunoti shrutva penam vedana chaiva kaschid. Some see the soul as astonishing, some describe him as astonishing, and some hear of him as astonishing, while others, even after hearing about him, cannot understand him at all. Shrutta penam vedana chaiva kaschid. Hare Krishna. There are exceptions in a systematic process. Arun Prabhu will vouch for that. And some miseries, actually miseries on this plane that we feel if we take it positively, which we should, are for us to realize that there is something inherently wrong in our experiential plane. And we must do something to correct it. And what are those exceptions and anomalies? Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, Dukh, Doshanudarshanam. It is said, those who do not see Janma, Mrityu, Jara, Vyadi, birth, death, infirmity, and disease as exceptions in the experiential system, they have not acquired any kind of knowledge. What is knowledge? This is knowledge. Janma mrityu jara vyadi dukkha doshanudarshanam. One has to come to realize, to feel within that there is something wrong. And we need to do something positively to make a correction to it. And great personalities like Śrīdhar in India, like demonstrated that for us. When they saw the cycle of birth, death, disease and old age, infirmity, immediately they demonstrated a disgust. And they were not able to simply embrace and accept this kind of a experiential relative reality. They had to do something. They had to take corrective measures. And when someone comes to that point, then they're a real knowledge seeker. Before that, maybe some preparation going on. Does that make sense? So this experiential plane is giving us some impetus, some clues. And so it's all an organic whole, and it's positive that look at the miseries. There's death all around. You turn on any TV channel, especially news channel, first thing that'll be in your face is death. And you want to avoid that, we switch to something else. But real knowledge and the real seeker will try to face that. And they will try to make a permanent solution to the exception. The real coder of AI will read an exception and will take it down, will think about it. We'll try and find a solution, but look at this. Look at this illusion. How many people that we know of, common masses, they come to ask these questions? How many? Maybe you can count them on fingertips. Manushyanam shastreshu kaschid yadati siddhaye. So he begins that sentence like kaschid yadati siddhaye. So this is the path towards perfection. First step towards perfection is to question this. And this question must come internally. If one's consciousness is evolved to the human platform. When we say, well, how is... You notice how Param Guru Maharaj is mentioning Swami Maharaj saying they're like cats and dogs. That's not a casual statement. That is a fact, because the level of consciousness at which these people are acting is not very different from cats and dogs. The real human platform is to come to this point of questioning. Why am I suffering? What are these miseries? Why are they coming to me? I don't want them. Is it my nature to suffer? If not, if you get the answer not, then why are you suffering? You should make a solution for it. That's for your highest benefit, isn't it? But no, we wish to continue to suffer. And at the same time, we want to be called supremely intelligent. Anyway, those are some of the things that we need to think about and constantly, and remind everyone in the group, outside the group about this, because that's what's coming down to us constantly. So we should never stop. We should never stop seeking. We should never stop or pause. Unfortunately, I have to pause. So, pardon my ignorance, and very happy to have all of your association and blessings. Seek blessings and from our friends on Facebook. I can't see them all, as usual, but sincere Dandot Pranams to all the people watching, and continue to bless us. If you have any comments, please go ahead before. Let me see if Nandakishore Prabhu. No, I don't think he's available.
Yeah, he's there.
He is?
Yeah.
Well, if he wants to, then.
Come.
Thank you, Abaji. So Abaji is going to try and convince one of the warriors to take his position, see if he does. Acha. So we will have Harihara, and then we can have the Jai Dhwani by Preeti ji, Zanika ji. Oh, there she is. All right. Excellent. All right. Dandavad. Namaskar. Oh, there he is. You want to? Okay, that's good. That's fine. ठीक है आजा.
भज श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासदि गौर भक्तवृंद
Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaur Bhaktavinda
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Yadavaya Namaha
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan
Gopal Govinda Ram Shri Madhusudan
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan
Giridhari Gopinatha Madana Mohan
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra
Shri Chaitanya Nityananda Shri Advaita Chandra
Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda
Gadadhara Shri Vashadi Bhaktavinda
Jaya Rupa Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath
Jagarupa Sanatana Bhatta Raghunath
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath
Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunath
Ichhai Gosai Kori Charana Vandan
Jai Gosai Kari Charana Bandhan
Jaha Hoite Vignana Shabishta Puran
Rahate Vignana Sabishta Puran
Ichhai Gosai Jarmui Taradas
Jai Gosai Jar Muitaradas
Tasavara padarenu mora panchagras.
Tasavara padarenu panchagras.
Tadera charana se vibhakta stane bas.
Tadera charana se vibhakta stane bas.
Janame mora abhilash.
Janame mora abhilash.
Nichai gosai jabe braja koilabas.
Nichai gosai jabe braja koilabas.
Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Lila Korila Prakash.
Shri Radha Krishna Nitya Leela Korila Prakash.
Anande bolo Hare Bhaja Vrindavan.
Anande Bala Hari Bhaja Vrindavan.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pade Majai Aman.
Guru Vaishnava Bhakti Majaviyaman.
Shri Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Koriyas.
Guru Vaishnava Pad Padma Kariyas.
Hari Nama Sankirtana Kohe Narottama Das.
Hari Nam Sankirtana Kare Narottamadas.
Hari Haraya Namah Krishnaya Davaya Namaha.
Hariharaya Namah Krishna Jadavaya Namaha.
Yadavaya Madhavaya Keshavaya Namaha.
Jadavaya Madhavaya Krishnavaya Namaha.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare.
Hare Rama Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare.
Nitai Gaura Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Nitai Gaura Hari Bol.
Hari Bol Hari Bol Hari Bol Jai Gaura Hari Bol.
Jaya Jaya Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Gurudev 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 Jaya Jaya Gurudev.
Jai Gauranga Sundar Jai Gauranga Sundar Jai Gauranga Sundar Jai Gauranga Sundar.
Jai Gauranga Sundar Jai Gauranga Sundar Jai Gauranga Sundar Jai Gauranga Sundar.
Jai. Okay, Anika ji, please.
Jai Sapri Krishna Shri Shri Guru Gauranga Gandhavar Govinda Sundar Giri Dari Gopila Jiu Ki Jai. Jai Krishna Paravar Chakrara Varya Astasara Satya Shri Srimad Bhakti Sundar Dev-Goswamī Maharāj Ki Jai. Jai Om Padmangsha Paravar Chakrara Astasara Satya Shri Srimad Bhakti Rakṣhak Dev-Goswamī Maharāj Ki Jai. Jai Om Padmangsha Paravar Chakrara Paravar Chakrara Varya Shri
Jai.
Brahmacharya Śrīla Haridas ki jai.
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 Anant Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai.
Jai.
Lord Krishna Saraswati ki jai.
Jai.
Samay Saman the Srinivasacharya Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Pavitraman Das ki jai.
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 Kaviraj ki jai.
Jai.
Tapasya
Jai.
Mahaprabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gopinath Devi Pradhan ki jai.
Jai.
Shri Bhakti Deva ki jai.
Jai.
Shrimad Deva ki jai.
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 Prabhupada Maharaj ki jai.
Jai.
Sangha Jangaji ki jai.
Jai.
Santaravi Sampet Adanya Samrata ki jai.
Jai.
Vishwa Vaishnava Raj Sab
Jai.
Jai.
Indravan Sandam ki jai.
Jai.
Baldev Kadir Jagmaji ki jai.
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 Shri Bhagavad ki jai.
Jai.
Amrita Vaishnava ki jai.
Jai.
Bhaktavinda ki jai.
Jai.
Harinam Sankirtan ki jai.
Jai.
Ite Gopnande Hari Hari Bol.
Hari Hari Bol. Jai Om Vishnupad Śrīla Bhakti Sundar Govinda Dev Goswamī Maharāj ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Śrīla Bhakti Rakṣhak Śrīdhar Dev Goswamī Maharāj ki jai.
Jai.
Jai Om Vishnupad Vishwarenya Śrīla A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai.
Jai.
जय भगवान श्रील भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती ठाकुर की जय.
Jai.
जय अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय.
Jai.
जय श्री चैतन्य सारस्वत मठ आचार्य वृंद की जय.
Jai.
श्रील भक्ति पावन जनार्दन महाराज की जय.
Jai.
श्रील भक्ति निर्मलाचार्य महाराज की जय.
Jai.
भक्त वृंद की जय.
Jai.
सन्यासी वृंद की जय.
Jai.
जय सपार्षद श्रीमन नित्यानंद प्रभु की जय.
Jai.
सपार्षद श्रीमन महाप्रभु की जय.
Jai.
रूप अनुग गुरुवर्ग की जय.
Jai.
जय श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय.
Jai.
Jai, our divine panelist Sri Padaran Krishna Prabhu ki jai. Our divine panelist Sri Chinmadev Prabhu ki jai.
Jai.
Our divine guest Anil ji ki jai. Preeti ji ki jai. Our Facebook participants and everyone joining in now and in the future, sab ki jai.
Jai.
Nittai Gaur Premanande. Hari Hari Bol.
Sripad Jairam Prabhu ki jai, Abhadiri ki jai, Yamana Prabhu ki jai, Nav Prabhu ki jai, All Guru ki jai.
Jai Gurudev.